I'm so grateful to be here tonight. I'm honored, I'm privileged. I want to thank the senior class for this opportunity to stand before you. I want to share some serious things with you tonight. I want to challenge you. I love you so much that I really, first of all, let me see, how many of my students, how many of y'all have my class? All right. I want to challenge you tonight, give you something to think about. First, I want to start by asking you a question. If a cat crawls into an oven and has kittens, does that make them biscuits?
No.
Should I ask the question again? If a cat crawls into an oven and has kittens, does that make them biscuits? Why not? Brother Malcolm X asked this question because so many of us don't understand identity. What's your identity? Where are you from? What do you consider yourself to be ethnically? Let me just ask a few people. What are you? What are you? Ethnicity. Queen. What's your ethnicity?
We all are.
British American. African American. Any Bahamians? Any Jamaicans? Any Haitians? England? Okay. And why do you consider yourself that? Well, let me challenge you tonight. If you are of African origin, you are African. Okay? Whether you were born in the Bahamas, whether you were born in Jamaica, for you to call yourself a Bahamian or a Jamaican is fine, but you are basically saying, I'm a biscuit. I'm a muffin. I'm a croissant. Why? Because that's where I was what? Well, that's where the cat was born. But does the cat that's born in an oven become a biscuit? Or does he maintain his identity? Somewhere along the line, we have lost our identity and our culture. I want to introduce you to a term, Sankofa. How many have ever heard of the term Sankofa? Anybody know what it means? It means to reach back and fetch it. It's symbolized by a bird reaching back to get an egg. The egg represents our culture. The egg represents for the bird its past, its present, and its future. But without the egg, without your culture, without your understanding of your past, you're calling yourself a biscuit. You're calling yourself a muffin. You're calling yourself a croissant. If I plant an orange seed in Florida, what will I grow?
An orange tree.
If I plant that same seed in Alabama, what will I grow? If I plant it in California, what will I grow? Because no matter where I plant the seed, it is what it is, no matter where it is planted. You are an African people, no matter where you are planted. How many of you ever heard of Carter G. Woodson? Now this is an HBC, this is serious. Y'all are considered educated, you're the senior class. But most of you who haven't took my class don't even know who Carter G. Woodson is. Yet you consider yourselves educated. Carter G. Woodson wrote a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. And in that book, he talks about the fact that there's a difference between education and training. If I educate, the word educate means to educe out from. If I educate a dog, what's the difference between educating a dog and training a dog? If I educate the dog, I bring out of the dog its potential to be itself. Who's the best educator of a dog? If I train the dog, who's the dog going to serve? Carter G. Woodson says you have not been educated. You've been trained. Because if you were educated to educe out from, there's much more in you than a job that's probably obsolete already. Let me read a quote from Asa Hilliard. I want to dedicate what I'm saying tonight to two people, and I hope you go and research these people. The first one is Bobby Wright, and he coined a phrase called menticide, which is the destruction of a person's mind in order to control them. And that's what you do to the dog. You train the dog to serve you. You don't educate the dog. If you educate the dog, it'll serve itself. Who's the best educator of a dog? Another dog. But if you train the dog can only serve itself. Let me read this quote from Asa Hilliard. And the second person I want to dedicate what I'm saying to is Amos Wilson. And he wrote a book called A Blueprint for Black Power. And I hope you go and research these two people. There's something wrong with an education process that leaves us ignorant of our past, strangers to our people and selves, apes and imitators of our oppressors, and creatures of habitual, shallow thought and trivial values. We have been and continue to be the victims of another term, a Swahili term called Maafa, which is great disaster. It is where we lost our culture, lost our story. First of all, what does the word history mean? His story. You know far more about your slave master's story than you do your story. And one of the reasons why we do not have a sense of self and a sense of identity and the ability to collectively work together to overcome our difficulties is because many of us don't know who we are. We call ourselves biscuits. We call ourselves muffins. We must practice Sankofa. We must go back and get our cultural edge. The things that are happening in Ferguson, the things that are happening over and over again will continue to happen until we recognize who we are. Let me read a poem from Asa Hilliard called No Encores Please. So they lie again, no problem. They attack again, no problem. African images distorted again, no problem. Racism rise again, no problem. It's an old story. Black folks believe again, now that's a problem. Black folks don't see again, now that's a problem. Black folks accept again, now that's a problem. Black folks don't confront again, now that's a problem. No encores, please. And so we've been trained to educate or to major on minors. And one of the reasons why we can't get together is because we are divided. And a divided people will continue to be a conquered people. There's a reason why we spend all of our money in the malls where they don't respect us and follow you around and watch you. And yet we don't want to spend money amongst ourselves. There's a reason why we are begging people for jobs and we don't have the ability to hire ourselves. And we see ourselves as individuals instead of coming together collectively. You see, 5 fingers individually can't do very much, but when you ball them up and turn it into a fist, now you got a weapon. Unified, we can overcome. Individually, we will continue to be at the mercy of those who have continued to take advantage of our ignorance. There are more black men in prison today than there was in slavery. The reason I say that, that's the new Jim Crow. And there's a book called The New Jim Crow. Many of these towns that used to have factories now have prisons, and they're shipping prisoners out. And many of you, my God, if you look at the graduation rate, even for black males, particularly in Dade County, not very long ago, it was about 29%. This school only graduates males. About for every 3, we graduate 1. And for females, we only graduate half, and that's in 6 years. Now, I know many of you are in the senior class, and you're on your way. But if all you want to do is get yours and don't reach back and do something for your people, you will not make your mark and you will not have a lasting legacy. It's not about money, honey. You won't be remembered for how much money you made. You'll be remembered for what contributions you made to the uplift of our people. Another term I want to share with you is ma'at. The 7 principles of ma'at. And so the question is whether to be African or not to be. That is the only question. Whether you identify with the masses of your people or you continue to be an individual and compete with our people. It's not about competition, it's about complementarity.
Yes, it is.
It's about working together
Yes, it is.
to overcome. Look at Ferguson. What is the sad reality of Ferguson? How can a group of people who are the majority complain about those empowered over them, and yet they're not voting, they're not alert and aware of what's going on? There's something wrong. And we're going to continue to repeat that. How can why don't they just vote them out of office? And we will continue to be reactionary. What's the difference between reaction and proaction? To react means to wait and to continue to wait till something happens and then call Al Sharpton or somebody to chase an ambulance or preside over. I'm tired of funerals. There's something that we can do to proact and come together to overcome our problems. I hope you hear me today, because we've been miseducated. But it's time to reach back and fetch it. So I challenge you. There's a movie called Sankofa. Go on YouTube and watch that movie. I challenge you. Thank you for listening to these words. Why y'all so quiet? Now if I got up here with a song and a dance, you'd be all over me. But I love you so much. It's time out for singing and dancing and placating your lower desires. It is time to do something to immunize ourselves so we won't continue to make the same mistake over and over again. The one thing that we lack is our culture and a sense of identity, to know who you are. Because the moment we come together collectively and ball up, we won't continue to have to chase ambulances. We can resist the devil.
Yes, we can.
And the devil will flee.
Yes, we will.
Thank you, Dr. Ron.